In this video, we take a look at card mixing procedures that give the appearance of mixing the cards thoroughly, when in fact they are simply equivalent to a packet cut. So what I thought we would do is just quickly review the effect of a packet cut on the ordering of a packet of cards. So I have here the Ace of Hearts through the Eight of Hearts. And of course the Ace is on top and the 8 is on bottom. So if we turn this packet over and allow the spectator, or you can do it yourself, just randomly cut off any number of cards. So this top portion becomes the new bottom of this rearrangement of the cards, and the original bottom portion becomes the new top. Okay, so let's take a look at where we happen to have cut the cards. Okay, it looks like we cut 6 cards to the bottom is what we've done. So the Ace was on top, 8 on bottom. Now in some ways we haven't really harmed the organization of these cards relative to their closest neighbors, okay? So to see this, what I thought we would do is go ahead and look at them arranged in a circular arrangement. And then you'll be able to see really what's going on, and it will help us understand why cutting a cyclic packet, that's a packet that has a pattern that repeats multiple times, while cutting such a packet will not actually harm the fundamental structure of it being cyclic. Okay, so let's go ahead and just picture what we had laid out linearly, Ace to the Eight of Hearts. Now we're going to assign those cards to different positions on this circle. Okay, so the 1 is representing the Ace of Hearts. It was the top card. And then the second card down was a 2, 3, 4, all the way to the bottom card, which was an 8. So we happen to have cut 6 cards to the bottom. So what that has done, in fact, let's just cut 1 card to the bottom and we'll just work up to our 6. So this is the current top. If we, quote, move the top card to the bottom, what that does is it rotates this so that the new bottom card is the 1 and the new top card is the 2, okay? And then cutting another card to the bottom rotates it so that the new top card is a 3, and then a 4, and then a 5, and then a 6, and then we actually cut 6 cards to the bottom. So that would bring the 7 to the top, and of course the 6 would be on the bottom. And that's what we see over here. The 6 is on the bottom, and the 7 is on top. So when it comes to cutting a packet of cards, to really visualize what's going on, it's best to view the cards in a circular configuration as drawn here. Okay, so just be aware that depending on the structure of the cards, cutting the cards will not harm the fundamental structure. Okay, now card cutting is a fairly simple action, right? It doesn't look all that convincing that the cards are being scrambled when you do a packet cut, right? So what we're going to look at here, let me go ahead and put them in order again with Ace on top, 8 on bottom. We're going to show you first something called the Charlier shuffle. Okay, now this is one of the most powerful shuffles in all of card magic for the simple reason that it is so incredibly convincing that the cards are being thoroughly mixed, when in fact all of the movement of the cards that you'll see in just a second is equivalent to cutting the packet at some location. Absolutely amazing. Okay, now really to do a Charlier shuffle and have enough cards to work with, why don't we go ahead, we'll go ahead and add the 9, 10, Jack and Queen of Hearts, so that we have 12. It's just a little nicer to have more cards to work with when you're doing a Charlier shuffle. Now, it works when applied to a packet of 8, but it's just perhaps more convincing the more cards you have, okay? So right now we have Ace through Queen of Hearts, so we have 12 cards. Okay, so watch what we're going to do here. So for the Charlier shuffle, what you do is you push over any number of cards. You don't change their relative order here, you just push them over. And then from the bottom here, you push over some number, maybe we'll push 4, and you deposit those on top. And then some of the top cards over here get pushed over and left on the bottom. Some of the bottom cards here get pushed over and set on top, and maybe this last one goes on bottom. So the mantra is top to bottom to top, top to bottom. Okay, so let's do it again. So you go move a top portion over to the bottom, new bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom. Maybe one more time. Move some up, move some over to your other hand, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom. Okay. Boy, anyone watching that would think the cards are beyond the knowledge of anyone, which in some ways is actually true. I actually don't know what the top card is, but I do know that the cards have essentially been cut. All of the movement that we've just shown you is equivalent to cutting the original packet at some location. Okay, so for example, what's the new top card? 7. Okay, so what I'm claiming is we essentially just cut 6 cards to the bottom. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and fan these out so you can kind of see that, and we'll set them down here. And you can see the conclusion there, that all of that movement was equivalent to cutting these 6 cards to the bottom. These used to be over here on top, right? They were right here, and now they've been cut to the bottom. And so you can perform that Charlier shuffle as many times as you like. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of illustrate the effect of a Charlier shuffle, which is really just a packet cut, on a cyclic packet. Now this is perhaps the simplest of all cyclic packets that are possible. It just alternates in color, red, black, all the way through. Okay, so it has a repeating pattern, namely red, black, that occurs 6 times because there's 12 cards. Okay, so the important thing here is it alternates in color. Okay, now for it to alternate in color, starting with a red on top versus a black on top, in some sense doesn't really make a big difference. Both of those are still cyclic packets that alternate in color. They just happen to start at a different color. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply the Charlier shuffle to this. So top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top. Maybe one more. And as you can tell, I'm not even keeping track of how many I'm moving. I really am not. Okay, so my claim is it's still cyclic. Now, it may now start with a black versus a red, but it still alternates in color. And it certainly does. Black, red, all the way through. Okay? Well, knowing that much, how would that help you? Well, so for example, knowing that it alternates in color, after all that supposed mixing, we could go ahead and just deal it into 2 piles, left and right. And what's guaranteed to happen? Just think about it. Since they alternate in color, one will be of one color, namely black, and the other packet would be of the other color, red. And also, if you think about it further, if we happen to have peaked the color of the bottom card before we did this left-right shuffle, we would know which card we would finish with over here. So there apparently was a red card at the very bottom after the Charlier shuffle. So if you just kind of take a little peek, so let me just show you a few ways of doing that. You know, if you had the cards alternating again, and you were to just kind of straighten those up on the table like that, as if you're just straightening up the packet, you can see that that's a red card. Well, when you go to do left, right, you know these will be the red and these will be the black. Okay, so those are some little insider tricks and tips there. Okay, now I have another packet over here I thought I would show you that's kind of interesting. Of course, this one does not alternate in color, as you can clearly see. It's a bit of a mess, actually. Nonetheless, we're going to go ahead and perform the Chardelier shuffle as many times as the spectator asks for. So let's go ahead and just, we'll move over any number there. And in fact, in some ways, the messier it is, the better. But you have to balance messiness with not messing up. Because if you make a mistake in terms of this top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, then you're going to destroy the relative order of the cards. Okay, so I think I did all of those Chardelier shuffles correctly. Okay, now what I'm going to do is go ahead and just deal into two piles, kind of like we just did. Okay, now we know it wasn't alternating at the beginning. You saw that. We had like two blacks or even three blacks next to each other and that kind of thing. But nonetheless, I think I can divine how we've separated these cards. Let me just get a feel first. Oh, that's interesting. We've divided the clubs and the hearts from the spades and the diamonds. Is that even possible? Let's take a look. I'm claiming that we separated the clubs and the hearts from the spades and the diamonds. Did we? It appears that we did. How in the world did we do that? And of course, you could have had a written prediction off to the side that you'd pull out at the end and say, boy, we somehow separated the clubs and the hearts from the spades and the diamonds. Well, you can probably guess, how did I build that packet? Okay, so we're just showing you some quick, simple little applications. The purpose of this video really is the Chardelier shuffle, but it's nice to see it in action. What would you use it for? Okay, well, these are right here. These are the clubs and the hearts, so you can just like randomly mix those. And here are the spades and the diamonds, okay? And so all I did was from there is I just alternated, like left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Okay, so what that does then is it guarantees that in the, let's say, the even positions, you'll have the clubs and hearts, let's say, and then in the odd positions, you'll have the spades and the diamonds. And I think that's actually exactly true here because odd positions, position 1, 3, 5, 7, and so forth. So here's position 1, it's a diamond. Position 3, spade. 5, spade. 7, diamond. 8, diamond. I apologize for my counting there. Let's count again. Let's count again. Okay. So, first position, diamond. The next odd position is 3, spade. Then fifth position, spade. Seventh position, diamond. Ninth position, diamond. 11th position, spade. And then in all of the even positions, you'll find clubs and hearts. Okay, so I got off on my counting to illustrate that this is set up the way that we need. And so now, of course, if you do the Chardelier shuffle as many times as you like, and have the spectator, you can even have the spectator tell you like how many cards to move over, I guess, at each little stage. And then if you, in fact, you can even deal them up. Say, I have a feeling we're going to separate the clubs and the hearts from the spades and the diamonds. Did we do that? We did indeed. Okay, so anyway, that's a very simple example of the Chardelier shuffle, which is really just a packet cut. Isn't that amazing? Okay, now the second one we're going to look at is called the Chardelier 1 shuffle. So let me go ahead and bring that up. Okay, the second kind of mixing procedure that is actually equivalent to just a 50% cutting of the packet is something I have called the Charlier 1. Okay, so you won't find that name anywhere except on my YouTube channel or my LinkedIn page. So Charlier 1, what does that mean? Well, the 1 tells us to move one card over each time. Okay, so how does that work? So let's go ahead and just gather up the cards. So here's a Charlier 1. So you move one card over from the top to the bottom. One from the bottom gets placed on top. The next top card here goes on bottom. The bottom card here goes on top. Top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top. Okay. Well, that's a lot of scrambling of the cards. So you would think that, the cards are mixed, maybe not as well as a full Charlier shuffle, but still certainly beyond the knowledge of anyone, okay? But I just want to show you here that that's actually not the case. Okay, so I can divide up the cards here, and I'm going to try to kind of use my intuition to detect the color of the cards. The color of the cards. Okay. Oh, that's very strange, actually. Yeah. I am certainly getting a very clear feeling that these cards right here are all of the same color. How surprising would that be? Oh, after all that movement. And these are of the same color. Well, which is which? Let's see. Oh, I can tell. These are red. They have a different resonance and vibrational frequency. I can definitely feel those are red. Red ink has been used to create those cards, whereas I'm not getting that same vibe over here. These are clearly black. Well, let's see if I'm right. What are the chances of me being right? Red, 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 red. What the heck? Are you telling me these are all black? They are indeed. Okay, so what is the Charlier 1 shuffle doing? Well, as I mentioned, it's equivalent to a 50% cutting of the cards. It's like cutting the cards just in half. Okay, so to see that, let's go ahead and just get an order packet again. Okay, so I've decided to go with 12 cards again, just because it's a good number for illustrating this. Okay, and they're in order. Top card is an ace, all the way down to the bottom card, which is a queen. Okay, so I'll turn the cards face down. So we'll perform a Charlier 1 and see what effect that has on this packet of cards. So you push over the top card. The bottom card now goes on top. Top card over here goes on the bottom. Bottom on top. Top to bottom. Bottom on top. Top to bottom. Bottom on top. Top to bottom. Bottom to top. Top to bottom. Bottom to top. Okay, so what has that actually done to the ordering of the cards? Well, you can see exactly what it's done. It's a 50% cutting of the packet. It's cut the top 6 cards to the bottom. That's all it's done. These 6 cards were over here, right? They were on top. So it's a 50% cutting of the packet. Well, when would that be useful? Well, it's useful a lot, because anytime you have a packet structure that is symmetric relative to a 50% cutting of the cards, and many of them are, you can perform that shuffle and it won't harm the organizational structure of the packet. Why don't I go ahead and show you a couple of examples of this? Why don't we show you the very first one that I demonstrated? How did I pull off the dividing into 6 red cards and 6 black cards? And how in the world would I know which half consisted of red and which half consisted of black? Okay, well, all I did was, you can maybe guess now, is I started with, you remember I didn't show you the cards for this particular demonstration. They were face down. But I started with 6 red cards on top and 6 on bottom. That's what I started with. Okay? Well, if this is a 50% cut, it's going to move those top 6 red cards to the bottom. That's all it's going to do. So let's do a Charlier 1. So top to bottom, bottom to top, 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 bottom to top, top to bottom. Now, that phrase, you don't say that out loud for the spectator to hear. You kind of silently repeat that if you need to. I find that it's helpful. It kind of keeps you on track. Because otherwise you might forget, now, have I already moved the top to the bottom, or do I still need to do it? So if you just kind of have that echoing in your mind silently, it keeps you on track. Okay, so doing one of those is equivalent to a 50% cut. Of course, if we were to do a second one, that would be another 50% cut, and as you might imagine, that would return the packet to its original order. Well, if you think about it, right there, it makes the Charlier 1 shuffle valuable for any even-sized packet of cards, because 2 of these is the identity permutation. It returns the packet to its original order. So if you have any information about the original order and you perform 2 of these in succession, you know everything about that packet. Anything you knew before is still true about it. Okay, so even just that single application is amazing. So here, I've just done it once. So the top 6, which were red, are now on the bottom. And the bottom's black. 6 black cards are now on top. Okay? Well, if you think about it, what I did was I said, well, I'm going to try to get a feel for these cards, if we've done anything kind of special with them. Let's see. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, these top cards here. Oh, yeah. In fact, I can feel that this card here and this card here are almost repulsing each other or something. I think these are all of one color. That's my guess. I think I think they're black. Yeah. Well, that would mean these would all have to be red. There's no way these are all red, is it? Oh, it is indeed. Look at that. They're all red and these are all black. Okay, so just, redoing that simple application there. Okay, so Charlier 1 is equivalent to a 50% cutting of the cards. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at different packet structures. If they're invariant under a 50% cutting of the cards, and many packet structures are, then you can use the Charlier 1 and not lose track or lose information about that packet. And if for whatever reason the packet is not one that's invariant under a 50% cutting of the cards, then just perform the Charlier 1 twice. And that's the identity permutation. It returns the packet to its original order. Okay, so that's valuable for any. Now you can't do that, by the way. The general Charlier, you can't do that, because it will depend on how many cards are being moved. This general Charlier, in some ways, is more convincing looking, but you lose certainty regarding the new organization of the cards. All you know is it's equivalent to cutting a certain number of cards to the bottom, which in the case of cyclic packets, like alternating red-black, is okay. It doesn't harm it. But a general packet, just randomly cutting it, we don't know exactly what got moved to the top and what got moved to the bottom. Okay, so in some ways the Charlier 1 is more powerful in retaining information about the packet structure now relative to what it was before, because it's just a 50% cut. Whereas the general Charlier, if you're lucky, it might end up being a 50% cutting, but most likely it's not, right? If you're not keeping track of how many you're moving, you're probably not moving in the end exactly half the cards to the bottom in the case of an even-sized packet of cards. Okay, so let me go ahead and just show you maybe one more application of this one as well. just doing the shuffle once, not twice. I mean, twice is great. And of course, any multiple of 2, right, will preserve the ordering of the cards. So if you perform the Charlier 1 4 times, it's the identity shuffle, the identity permutation, or 6 or 8 or 10 and so forth. Okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and show you another application. So I have here 12 cards, as you can count, quickly count. Okay, so we're going to perform this Charlier shuffle just once. Okay, so top to bottom, bottom to top, 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 top to bottom, bottom to top. Okay, boy, after that scrambling of the cards, you would really think that these cards are mixed. Well, let's just see how mixed they are. I'm going to go ahead and just deal them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a good number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, let's see what we've done after all of that crazy mixing that we call the Charlier 1 shuffle. What are these over here? Oh, that's nice. A pair of aces. What are these? Oh, no way. They're even in the right order. There's no way this is a 3. Oh, boy. What are the chances that this would happen by chance alone? Very, very, very small. How in heaven's name did you do that? I saw those cards just being moved all over the place, and somehow you were able to pair them up perfectly. Aren't you amazing? Okay, well, you can guess what the original organization of the cards was. Okay, it was cyclic, actually. So I just had like ace through 6 on top, and then I had that same pattern for the bottom half. Same pattern. Okay, so this is cyclic. Okay, and so if you think about it, a Charlier 1 will cut the packet in half. So these 6 that are on top will be moved to the bottom, and vice versa. Well, then, if you just deal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we'll be dealing 1 card of each value for a given color. In fact, if these get moved to the bottom by a Charlier 1, it would now look like this. So the top 6 would be the hearts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the bottom 6 would be the clubs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now, that's in contrast. So this is cyclic. That's the important thing. What's cyclic again? That's where you have a pattern that repeats 1 or more times. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and just contrast this Charlier 1 with the general Charlier shuffle. Because since this is cyclic, I've claimed that a general Charlier will not destroy the cyclic nature of the packet. And that's true, actually. Why is that? Because cutting the packet will not change, unless you drop the cards, will not destroy the cyclic organization of the cards. Okay? So what's different this time is if I deal out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these will still be paired up perfectly. The only thing I will not know, which is fairly significant, is I will not know where pairs are. Now, it is true if I peek at one, I'll be able to deduce all of the others. But for instance, I don't know that this is the ace. These are the aces here, and they're not. It's the 4s over here, right? Now, you can probably think through, okay, what's going to be over here, though? What follows the 4 in the ordering? Isn't it the 5s? What follows the 5s? The 6s. What technically follows the 6s in this cyclic arrangement of the cards? Well, the aces. Those are the neighbors. And then the 2s. And then, of course, the 3s. Okay. So anyway, with the Charlier shuffle, it's like it shifts these pairs in some way. Okay. Whereas the Charlier 1 will enable us to know the exact value of each of the pairs of cards from left to right. Okay, anyway, that's the Charlier 1. Very valuable, especially when the full Charlier shuffle will destroy what you're working with. The Charlier 1 can still be used to convincingly mix the cards, and you'll still have considerable knowledge as to what the packet structure is after the Charlier 1 shuffle. Okay, so let's go on to our final one for today. So the last one here is I'm going to go ahead and begin with an ordered packet, just so that we can verify the conclusion of what I claim the SuperCUT is actually doing to the ordering of the cards. Now, in practice, you would have a more sophisticated packet in play, one that's not so transparently arranged, right? This is arranged sequentially. Okay, so we have ace through queen. Okay, so what is a SuperCUT? Well, you just turn the cards face down. So what you do is you ask for any number, let's say between 1 and 6, okay? Now, it's nice to have maybe even more than one just to make it interesting, and not too many cards beyond 6, because otherwise you really won't be mixing these face up, face down very well, okay? So you could call for any number or no number at all. They don't have to flip any, but so just ask them, okay, maybe a number between 3 and 6 or 3 and 7. So they say 3. Okay, so watch what I'm going to do. Remember, the ace is at the top. So you count out, which has the effect of reversing the order of the cards. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that reverses the order of these cards. The ace was on top. Now it's on the bottom of these 3, and the 3 was on the bottom of this set of 3, and now it's on top. Okay, so you reverse count, or count out into your other hand, which is something we call reverse counting. And the reason for that is because it reverses the order of those cards. And then what you do openly, it's okay that the spectator sees this. In fact, you want them to see this. You're turning some of them face up now. And then you immediately move into just a regular Charlier shuffle. Just a regular Charlier shuffle. So maybe they'll say 4 now. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. That wasn't very interesting. And maybe 2, 1, 2, flip, Charlier. How about 3? 1, 2, 3, flip those. Okay. And then Charlier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say this time, flip, move into a Charlier. 1, 2. Okay, I'm dropping the cards. Sorry, they're getting kind of warm because I'm using them too much. How about 4 again? 1, 2, 3, 4, flip. And then move into a Charlier, top to bottom, bottom to top. Okay, so what effect do those actions have on this packet of cards? Okay, well, certainly some of the cards are face up now, which is kind of cool. Okay, but what has it done to the ordering of the cards? So think about it. When I reverse counted any number of cards, that reverses their order. But then I turned around and immediately flipped them over in my left hand. Well, that straightens out their order. They're back in the original order that they're in. So really, this is truly just a Charlier shuffle in which some specified number of cards are flipped face up as determined by the spectator. That's the amazing thing. You're giving them the freedom to do this, okay? So what I'm claiming then is that we are just one cut away from returning the packet to its original order, where we had ace on top all the way down to a queen on bottom. Okay, so right now it looks to be a big mess, right? But I'm claiming if I move these 3, so I leave the ace on top, because that's where it started, and cut those to the bottom, I'm claiming that it's back in the order ace through queen. Well, let's just check that. So ace, we're hoping that well, go over here. This is a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen. Okay, so a SuperCUT, which I've never heard of before. This is not in the literature. This is a name I thought of. I've never seen this shuffle performed before I started using it. I got thinking about, is there a way to introduce card flipping, but in the end not lose track of the relative ordering of the cards? Well, that's exactly what a SuperCUT does. It's kind of randomly flipping some cards face up and leaving others face down, but yet the relative order of the cards is still known. Isn't that amazing? But boy, is it convincing to watch as a shuffle. I don't think anyone, unless they've studied principles on my Hidden Structures YouTube channel, would be able to readily detect that, oh, wait a second, he hasn't lost track of anything, actually, as far as the relative order of the cards. Cards that were immediate neighbors before are still immediate neighbors. And immediate neighbors in the sense of that circular arrangement that we thought of, right? If you think of them in a circle, where cutting the cards is just rotating the circle so many units clockwise. So any kind of effect that you could do with the Charlier shuffle, you can apply the SuperCUT and accomplish what it is you hope to accomplish with an original Charlier shuffle. Okay, you don't lose any information. But what's really powerful is now the cards are going to randomly flip face up and face down. Okay, so just adding to the confusion and strengthening the perception and the mind of the spectator that the cards are beyond the knowledge of anyone, okay? And it really will seem that way. But in fact, you know better, because you know that a SuperCUT is equivalent to a Charlier shuffle, and a Charlier shuffle is simply equivalent to an ordinary packet cut. Okay, so that is a fun one to do. Why don't we can go ahead and just quickly demonstrate the mechanics of the shuffle one more time, okay? And if you want to check yourself, it's good to start with an ordered packet. That way you can kind of verify that you're doing it right, that you're not making mistakes, okay? So you ask for any number, any reasonable number, maybe 2, 1, 2, okay? So right now they're out of order from what they were, but when you flip them over, they're back in order. Okay, so we haven't harmed anything. And then you just move into a Charlier. Maybe they'll want 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, flip. Move into a Charlier. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Move into a Charlier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe flip. Move into a Charlier. Okay, and then depending on what structure you're working with, you'll be able to actually look at this and identify what cards are actually. So, for instance, if they said that they want you to find the 8 of hearts, which of these down-facing cards is the 8 of hearts? Yeah, no, it's not that one. This one, wait a second. I think it's that one right there. It's just crying out to me. This is the 8 of hearts. And it is indeed. How did I do that? Well, you did it because they're in order, right? In a circular sense, right? Because right here, so here, this would have to be the queen, right? Queen, I'll show you. Queen's there, okay? Which means that really all we've done is we've cut the ace, this must be the ace, to the bottom. That's all that's happened as far as order. So this is the ace, of course the 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I knew that the middle card, this is 7, 8, 9. So I knew the 8's right there. but you can make a game of it like you don't know and that you're getting some feedback from the cards. Okay, so there's endless things you could actually create just with this one mixing procedure, the SuperCUT. And it would just blow away anyone watching, like, how in the world is he doing that? Okay, well, that's enough for this video. So we've talked about just ordinary packet cuts, their effect on different packet structures. They're especially nice for cyclic packets where you have a pattern that repeats one or more times. Then we talked about Charlier, general Charlier shuffles, which are equivalent to an ordinary packet cut. And then we talked about the Charlier 1, where you're moving one card over each time. Well, that's equivalent to a 50% cutting of the cards, and that's very nice to be aware of. And then the final one here is a SuperCUT. This is a brand new one as well, along with the Charlier 1. That I haven't seen anyone do, but boy, is it fun because it introduces face-up and face-down cards and gives the illusion that the ordering of the cards has been utterly destroyed, when in fact it has not. It's equivalent to an ordinary cutting of the cards, with some of the cards now face up. Okay, well, thank you for watching, and take a look at other videos on the Hidden Structures channel.